Ciao my lovelies, it's me the D. Today we're doing our reading wrap up for the month. I think I need to do this in some categories because I want to discuss things a little more in depth than I feel like I have in the past. We're gonna start with the things we already knew I was gonna love, which was A Sign of Affection. I read the volumes 7 and 8. I should be getting my last copies tonight. So I'm very excited about that. I will finish that up next month. Like I said, I knew I'd finish that up by the end of summer. A Sign of Affection is about a girl and a polyglot who is learning ASL from her, and they end up falling in love in university. And so at the point that I'm in is they're fully in a relationship and she's still working on her affection. Like she's very nervous about touching and things like that. So that's where I'm in the story. It's hitting a point in the book where it feels like they might break up. But there's a lot of volume still, so I'm obviously probably wrong, but I do enjoy this storyline so far. I think the reason that I'm so obsessed with this manga series is that it's so wholesome and cutesy without like pushing it past, which again, we're in a university setting, so you expect it to be kind of sexy and stuff, but like there's no sex in this, at least not yet. I just think it's so cute how he takes his time to work with her and her boundaries as she's learning to open herself up more in general. And it's following her and her friends' relationships. It's so cute. And the little hijinks that they get into, it's not very much. Like it really is just focused on their relationship and how it's developing over time. Each volume, you could see her getting more and more comfortable with being in a relationship and exploring how to be more independent, as she was very content in her life before she met him, but meeting him and wanting to be more like him. He's very outspoken and very casual, while everything to her seems like a big deal. And all the characters are stupid cute. So the animation style is adorable. I love the covers. Again, I will show the covers of all the mangas together once I have them all. I'm just waiting on, I think, 3 more. I think I only need 2 more. So loved that. Both of those were 5 stars. Next I want to talk about is I had a DNF as well as a 5-star from the same person. We are talking about Nat Cassidy. I don't know how to talk about this. I think I just posted this last video of me doing a DNF diary. We are talking about a 5-star as well as a DNF by Nat Cassidy. I gave The Nestlings a DNF. I'm not even going to mark that book as being read in any way, shape, or form. I did make it to 55% of the book and it is just a DNF. I just did a DNF diaries video, I believe, right before this, and I really didn't like it. It was just not going anywhere. It was just annoying. The tone was annoying, and it felt like, yes, the descriptions of grossness were there, but it was at the same time not even actually, nothing was going on. There was only maybe 2 instances of something kind of gross or scary happening, and I was 55% through. I did not have the patience, and I did read the ending, and it was not worth it to me. So I ended up DNFing it. But as soon as I DNF'd that book, the next book I picked up was When the Wolf Comes Home from him. And that was a 5-star. I listened to When the Wolf Comes Home on audiobook, and it was all in one day, which is unheard of for me because, again, I'm pretty busy most of the time. I absolutely loved everything about that book. When the Wolf Comes Home is about a girl who had just had an epiphany that she wants to change her life like astronomically as soon as she's done with her shift. And on her way home, she ends up finding a little boy who is running away from his father, and you are just following their journey as they're trying to get somewhere safe and away from this danger. I thought that this was going to be a book about werewolves, which it is, but it's a lot more than that. It actually has depth, it has character development, it has imagination, and it has horror. Every next chapter was more intense. It just kept me on my toes. Like, I did put it down a few times throughout the day, but it was still sitting in the back of my mind. So I always wanted to pick it back up. I even sped up some parts where I was really anxious to get to how things would be ending. I think the only things that I didn't absolutely love about that book is that there was a reference to a movie I haven't seen, and I honestly didn't look it up because I didn't care enough to. So I kind of missed that reference, as well as I feel like one of the characters in this book was very confusing as to what was going on with him, but it generally was really good. I think that makes me reconsider my thought. I was thinking he was a three strikes you're out kind of guy, and I've liked a short story as well as one book from him. So it's 2 for 2. I guess I'll just have to wait until the next book to see if I'm actually going to keep reading from him, as well as I felt so bad not liking The Nestlings because Nat Cassidy's afterthoughts in his books always make him sound like the coolest guy in the world. And again, I didn't rate it because I don't want people to think that I am just hate reading it, especially if I continue reading to the end, knowing I didn't like it at the point I was at. So I didn't mark it, but I think he's a cool dude. So maybe I should just keep him in the back burner. I don't think I'll buy any more books from him unless I know for sure after I've read it and I loved it that I'll buy it. When the Wolf Comes Home may be bought, but only if there's a really cool cover. Because right now I don't mind that cover, but it's not my favorite. So yeah, that was a 5-star and I absolutely loved it after absolutely hating something. So what are the odds of that? The next book that I was obsessed with this month was Strange Houses by Uketsu. I think that's how you say his name. That was another 5-star. I was influenced to read it based off of, I think it was TikTok. So I love a good mystery. I love trying to figure out what's going on in a story, right? And so I was hoping to figure out the situation in this book before I was told it. Strange Houses is about Uketsu, the actual author, being asked for advice on finding a house and looking at this housing plan, seeing if there's anything strange about it. He ends up incorporating his other friend, who's an architect, into trying to figure out what's so odd about the way that this house is built. Once you figure out how this house is built, it's trying to get the story behind the people who were living there, as well as it seems like a murder may have happened there. And so with that, you are trying to figure out the story alongside of them as to why the house looks weird. The way as, like, do you notice anything strange before they notice anything strange? Which was very interesting and I really enjoyed it. It was a relatively short book, but it definitely was interesting. Again, it was another one where I felt like I got to know the characters really deeply in such a short amount of time. And I just think that when you get to the final answer, it's still not even a full answer, but it's satisfying enough where it's like, yeah, I could see that. I think I could reread this and see if I maybe would be able to pick those things up faster. I'm not very good about reading floor plans when it comes to houses and things like that. So it took me way longer than I'd like to admit to figure out what was going on, especially with the designs. It shows you different pictures on how you should be trying to imagine the housing situation. But yeah, I thought that was such an interesting thing because it sounds like it was a real thing, a real place. And I am so excited. I've already bought the second book from Uketsu and it's called Strange Pictures. And again, I may pick that one up. Anything where I give it a 5-star, I'm generally gonna pick it up just because I want my collection to be things that I actually love. And I love that very much. The next thing we'll be discussing is Carl's Doomsday Scenario by Matt Dinniman. And it was a 4.5. Dungeon Crawler Carl was the first book in the series and we're on the second one. We are on the third or fourth level of the dungeon, and this is basically a live broadcasted alien planet, basically Hunger Games, where I think it's 18 levels down to the bottom and you are trying to survive all these different levels and aliens and bosses. It's an RPG kind of game, and so we've made it down to level 3 and 4. He's able to finally customize his character, his personality, as well as Princess Donut, who is a cat that he is basically best friends with. And so we're finally down further in the levels. He's getting further into politics. He's becoming more popular. He keeps getting tangled into new situations with new characters, and many storylines are starting to interlope. I think the only thing that kind of made it a little less than a 5-star was that it did feel like a filler, but it still was pretty okay. Like, I feel like with these, I believe it's called quests, he finally starts getting quests, which are separate things that do not actually have anything to do with the storyline of any kind of video game. So it ends up taking some quests, and I feel like one of them was not needed. And that was a good chunk of the book. So I was kind of irritated by that, but I still enjoyed the characters. So I think it's a 4.5. I would still recommend it to anybody. I think I might just stick to like maybe one book a month. I can keep up with it because if I put this down, I doubt I'll pick it back up. Not to say that because I don't like it, but just because I if I'm on a roll, I'm on a roll. So I think that this was great. I think I'll pick up the next one. I might give myself a break next month because they're kind of big. So I might give myself a break, but I'm still very much enjoying it. And then we got to talk about the weird book I read this month, okay? So I ended up picking up this book called Eat, and it is about, I'm gonna keep it real simple. It is about a wolf who has a kink of wanting to be eaten. Actually eaten, carnivore, cannibalism type stuff. It was interesting. It didn't get graphic. I remember the reason I picked this up was because I was intrigued by it when I was in Barnes & Noble, I think a month or two ago. And I was just looking through my screenshots and I was like, oh, might as well. Picked it up, I read it. I don't know what to say about it. It was a book. I read it. It was a 4. I think I'm just gonna continue going down with the stars just because I've already been on a roll with it, so might as well. The next book I gave a 3.75 and it was Cicada by Tanya Pell. And this is, I don't know if it's a short story, but this is a generally short book, and it is about a couple who ends up in a small nobody town, but they're having a festival based on this movie that is surrounded around cicadas. There is a cicada horror movie festival for this town. They basically wander into it and horror ensues. It was okay. I think it took me a few nights, and again, I said this was pretty short, so I won't say that it was fast-paced specifically, but there was gore, and honestly, that was delightful. I thought it was quite interesting the way they were talking about the bodies and such, so I just, you know. It's a little gross, I will say. If you don't like cicadas, like I don't, it'll work. It'll work. I do love a survive the night, so they survived the night. It was cool. I think I'm gonna give a small story. Might as well, right? It's my channel, I do what I want. So when I was younger, I used to live in bumfuck nowhere, and I remember that my mom's boyfriend was a douchebag, and he and one of my cousins or whatever, I had braids in my hair, okay, and they crumpled the cicada casing in my hair. And I was traumatized, and now I hate cicadas. Yeah. I don't know why I told you that, but there's a story for you today. Yeah, I absolutely hate cicadas. They freak me out so fucking bad. So that book did scare me, but it wasn't fast enough for me. As well as, again, if I can put it down, it's not working. And then I think I have 2 3-star reads. The first one is Perfect Little Monsters. We are following the new student at the school. She just recently got on the cheer squad with the popular girls, and she's the last person to be giving a drink to the popular girl who got murdered at her own party. So it is our main character trying to figure out what happened and how she got murdered and trying to get the blame off her, because again, she's the likely suspect. So I did not find this book, the twist was not twisty. I didn't think it was that original, that surprising, and I just feel I don't think I like the writing style is what I remember, because I was like, these characters are just dumb. And I don't mean intentionally dumb, I just feel like I didn't like it. It was cringe. It was actually kind of cringe. The way that the main girl was like, oh my God, I shouldn't talk to this guy, but I really like him. Shut the fuck up. Yeah, so I just did not enjoy the characters. I didn't enjoy the plot twist. Maybe I should have put it down. Maybe I should have DNF'd that one. I don't know. It wasn't the worst. I could recommend it to people, but I just don't think it was for me, and I don't know if I would pick something up by that author again. I believe it was a debut. I don't think I'll pick anything up by Sydney RX He again, but it was worth a try. I do think this is recommended for a few people. I would say for a younger audience, because there's nothing too graphic or scary about this. It's really just trying to figure out how to get the blame off the main character. So, and that's a lie. Actually, there was something that bothered me about the book. It was that these characters that we're following, I believe we were following 3 different characters POV, and it was meant to be confusing, but I honestly was kind of like, what are we talking about? I don't know. I can't really talk about it because it would basically spoil the book, but okay, like, what are we talking about? It did not do anything special for me. The last book I ended up reading this month was The Three of Us, and it was okay. It was a 3. Okay. I think that if you enjoy a nice little drama, if you like hearing people's mess and like you kind of like toxic friendships, this book is for you, because we are following a wife, her best friend, and her husband. I think from my original talking about this book, I was saying that who would you choose in your life, your best friend or your husband, because they adamantly hate each other. I was right about that, but at the same time, you're just following 3 people who all basically hate each other, just a little bit. You're basically following the 3 POVs, right? And the wife and the best friend have been hanging out and drinking, and they tell you in the synopsis that every time they drink, basically things go insane. They have been drinking. I think they had like 5 bottles of wine, and he had a bottle of whiskey, and it was just a lot. So just from that, you can tell the tea was hot. Everybody's saying what's on their mind. It was kind of intense that way. But I did find the writing style a little bit odd, as in there were no quotation marks the whole time in the book. I had a hard time knowing if we were in someone's thoughts or if they were actually speaking out loud. I think that was just a little difficult for the book, but as well as I think the book went a little too hard trying to explain that women can do as they please in life, and like if you're with a man, you're being held down, and like you're not your true self if you have to conform to be likable to somebody. And that was a heavy point in the book, especially between the relationship between the best friend and the wife. She used to be so free to do as she pleased, but she's kind of conforming herself to her husband, trying to please him, trying to do things that he likes. And her best friend basically thinks that's not really who she is. And then the husband thinks that her best friend is very toxic and trying to lead her down a path that is not good for her. You're basically watching the wife be very, very hands off on both sides. She does not correct anybody, and she kind of likes when they fight. So again, if you enjoy a little spat, you could read it. But yeah, I think the writing style is what really kind of threw me off, because I don't mind a good little listen. But yeah, the writing style was definitely something that deterred me, as well as if this was any longer, I would have probably put it down a little bit more. So I think I just went through all the books I read this month. Is that true? Yeah, I did. And I actually had gotten nestlings for my TBR jar, and I DNF'd it. So I don't know what I'm gonna do to keep myself accountable. Again, I think DNF Diaries is gonna have to be a part so that it at least shows that I try to read those books. So for now, I think I'm just gonna pick another book from my TBR jar so that, you know, we can acknowledge that I'm still trying. It just hasn't been working out. So again, I believe we have finished all the books I've read this month. Thank you for watching, and we're gonna finish this out and then we're done. So we're just going to, hi Oreo, Shadow Falls. We're gonna hit a nostalgia kick. Okay, I can do that. Shadow Falls, this is the beginning. It is born at midnight and awaken at dawn, okay? So I really doubt anyone's ever read this, okay? I don't know. This was like, I wanna say high school. Early high school, like freshman year high school, like 10 years ago. Oh, so this is a book series where it is about our main girl who does not know she is some kind of mythical creature. She ends up going to this summer camp for, like, I think it was vampires and shapeshifters and something else, and she doesn't even know what she is, but her mom is forcing her to go to this camp. So she ends up going. I remember I really enjoyed this series, and honestly, I'm kind of excited to start this. So, all right, I guess we figured out our book for the month. It technically is 2. I doubt I'll do that, but yeah, so I'm kind of excited. I'll try and do a vlog for this, maybe. I'm a fucking liar. I ain't doing no vlog. I think I just read 9 books this month. That's a lot for me. So yeah, all right. Bye. All right, we got our book, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.